During the 15th century in France, amidst the 100 Years' War between England and France, a boy named Gilles de Rais is born into French nobility. His parents, Guy II de Montmorency-Laval and Marie de Craon, provide him a lavish upbringing. At a young age, he is fluent in Latin and proficient in both book studies and military training. Around the time of his 10th birthday, his parents pass away, leaving him and his younger brother in the care of their grandfather, Gilles de Craon. Over the next 15 years, Gilles tries to match Gilles de Rais with different wealthy maidens until he is finally married to Catherine de Troyes, a rich heiress, and by the age of 24, he is blessed with a baby girl he names Marie. Gilles de Rais' title as baron and his inherited wealth from marriage grant him a vast fortune, which he uses to acquire an impressive collection of art at his estate. In addition, he spends his wealth on music, written works, and theater. The land he gains ownership of eventually rivals and exceeds that of most French royalty. He fills the estate through employing servants and priests. Beyond his material gains, Gilles de Rais lives as a devout worshipper of God, well-versed in religious scripture. Thus, during his military career, he finds himself drawn to a unique French officer, Jeanne d'Arc. He learns that she believes herself to be on a mission from God to defeat England and take back the French capital of Orleans. From his conversations with her, he is touched by her determination and faith, ultimately seeing her as evidence of God's providence. Gilles de Rais chooses to serve under Jeanne, working alongside her to reclaim lost territory from past years. For their deeds restoring the capital and paving the way for King Charles VII to ascend the throne, both he and Jeanne are praised as saviors and heroes at the king's coronation ceremony. Gilles de Rais himself is granted the title of Marshal of France. The triumph of this victory etches itself into Gilles de Rais' most proud memories. Yet, this glory does not last. During the siege of Compiègne, Jeanne d'Arc is captured by English forces on the battlefield. She is to be tried on their terms as a fraudulent heretic. During the year of her imprisonment, Gilles de Rais makes attempts to rescue Jeanne, but tragically fails. In the end, she is sentenced by the church to be burned at the stake. The woman he views as the anchor to his faith is executed horrifically. From this, Gilles de Rais falls into profound despair. How could someone so pure and devout be punished so? What just and loving God would allow such a living nightmare? Gradually, the faith that comprises his identity and moral spectrum dissolves into ambiguity. In this state, he wastes away his vast fortune until he can no longer maintain his estate. Seeking help, he meets with his close friend, the cleric Francois Prelati, and is invited to join him in alchemy to procure funds. While this is a reasonable endeavor, it quickly becomes distorted. Francois is a talented magus with a boyish stature. Despite his apparent charm, in addition to alchemy, Francois practices black magic, fueled by an enjoyment for causing pain and misery. His knowledge of demonic rituals comes from his spellbook, Textbook of the Sunken Spiral Castle, which itself is his own Italian translation. The original grimoire is believed to have been written in the non-human text of Rillier, referenced in Lovecraftian lore. Under normal circumstances, Gilles de Rais would never associate with such rituals. But in the aftermath of Jeanne's execution, he begins to speculate God's existence. He reasons in his madness that he can verify God's presence by committing atrocities worthy of divine punishment. Thus, he forgets his goal of earning money in favor of shadowing Francois during the summoning of demons. To bolster his sins, Gilles de Rais abducts hundreds of young boys and proceeds to rape and murder them regularly. Through the following years, he basks in darkness, his appearance distorting into a menacing, pale, and atrophied form. During this hell on earth, the elite of his community at first turn a blind eye to his crimes, seeing the deaths of these children as similar to the abuse of livestock. However, in light of his wasteful spending, they begin to fear he may sell off his estate to an enemy nation in desperation for money. Coveting the land for themselves, the nobles finally decide to arrest Gilles de Rais for his blasphemous cruelty. They sentence him to be executed, and he meets his end by being brutally hanged. Of course, he does not recognize this as punishment from God for his sins, but rather a greedy ploy to obtain his property. Gilles de Rais dies, convinced that the God he worshipped doesn't exist. The side of him known for his military heroics is recorded into the Throne of Heroes, while his descent into madness becomes the basis for the character Bluebeard in the 1697 publication Tales of Mother Goose. While he's never had actual training as a magus, he is forever associated with black magic. In the modern era, during the Third Holy Grail War, the Greater Grail is corrupt by the Avenger servant Angra Mainyu, allowing for the summoning of anti-heroes in preceding wars. This proves significant in the years leading up to the Fourth Holy Grail War. In Japan, a twisted individual by the name Ryunosuke Uryu lives as a freeder, working low-end jobs with minimal commitment. This allows him to be mobile and available to pursue his true passion, murder. This man is a psychopathic serial killer, fueled by a curiosity for death. The experience of dying, the emotions felt, and the bodily implications thereof are what he considers to be forbidden knowledge, enticing him to kill others for voyeuristic thrill. He claims that, had his curiosity been sated by authentic violence in media, he wouldn't have been compelled to murder. Sickeningly, his approach to murder is geared toward quality over quantity. He prefers to savor the experience by basking in his victims' tortured emotions as they cling to life. Most of his victims are young women and children, taking advantage of their vulnerability. After all, it is less the act of killing that compels him, and more the chance to witness death of all kinds. Thus, when he discovers a book in his parents' house he believes contains instructions to summon monsters, he is more than intrigued. What he doesn't realize is that this book is from his ancestors, who were once mages, and the text itself details the summoning ritual for a heroic spirit. While he is no mage, Ryunosuke does indeed possess dormant magic circuits. To prepare for the summoning, he slaughters several families, siphoning their blood for use in constructing a magic circle. The night he makes his move, he invades the home of a 3-person family, killing the parents and binding their young child for use as an offering to the monsters. While he does a crude job following instructions, his efforts are enough to trigger the Grail, which selects for him a servant most compatible with his maniacal personality. Matching one serial killer with another, Ryunosuke accidentally summons Gilles de Rais at the peak of his despair into the caster class. Despite being one of the weakest servants, he is summoned alongside Prelati's spellbook, and this grimoire assists him with his spells. At first, Ryunosuke is disappointed because Gilles de Rais appears to spare the young boy offered to him. In truth, however, Gilles is merely waiting for the boy to have a fleeting glimpse of hope before having a carnivorous Cthulhu-esque creature tear him to shreds. Gilles de Rais expresses that true terror comes from the instant transition from hope to despair, that exploiting this transition is the ideal way to appreciate death. With this, Ryunosuke is inspired, and the two decide to wreak havoc together. Early in the war, Gilles de Rais witnesses Artoria Pendragon on the battlefield and genuinely believes her to be his beloved Jeanne d'Arc. When she denies him, he assumes she is somehow being controlled or lacks her memories. As such, he insists on provoking her by proving God's absence through further blasphemy. He and Ryunosuke establish a base in Fuyuki City's sewers, where they gather children to perform nightmarish experiments. Ryunosuke, in particular, derives great pleasure from having the chance to make art with the bodies of his captives, the most horrid being a flesh umbrella and a human pipe organ. The pair's disregard for the rules and conduct of the Holy Grail War make them targets for elimination by all the other masters. And after they discover their base has been incinerated by Iskandar, they hit a breaking point. In light of their disappointment, Ryunosuke cheers up Gilles de Rais by assuring him that God does exist. He explains that God created and appreciates everything in the world, both worship and blasphemy. The fact that internal organs are so bright and colorful serve as evidence that even mutilation itself can be highly entertaining for God. This philosophy resonates with Gilles de Rais, and the two of them prepare an ultimate spectacle. He summons a gigantic eldritch abomination with himself at its core. The beast attempts to ravage the city, with Ryunosuke cheering from the sidelines. While the monster is dreadfully powerful and can regenerate itself, it is ultimately defeated when Artorias strikes it head-on with the light of Excalibur. At the same time, Ryunosuke is sniped by Artorias' master Kiritsugu Emiya. As he lay dying, he finds joy and delight, even in his own death, finally able to experience it firsthand. As for Gilles de Rais, he is disintegrated by the light of Excalibur, believing it to be the divine light of Jeanne d'Arc, welcoming him to join her in heaven. This video is brought to you in part by HelloTalk, an amazing app for learning languages through social exchange. If you've ever wanted to learn a language, perhaps Japanese, then HelloTalk may be perfect for you. As a supplement to hitting the books or taking classes, the HelloTalk app provides you efficient tools to learn by speaking directly with fluent speakers of your target language. It's a mutual exchange between yourself and partners, teaching each other through text, voice, and even video communication. It comes filled with translation tools to help the process along, offering a unique experience that formal education can't match. A ton of practical knowledge I have about Japan came from interacting with a pen pal I made online, which turned into a solid friendship of cultural exchange. With HelloTalk, getting that genuine experience is easier than ever. It's totally free for the first language, and you can get it for both iOS and Android devices. To get started, simply click the link in the top right or the link in the description below. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then go check out some of my other lore videos. It's my goal to make one of these for virtually every servant in the Nasuverse, and I would appreciate your support through that journey. The best way would be to become a patron of the channel. We offer different reward tiers, ranging from early access to the chance to suggest your very own video. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to OtakuDaiKun for more anime lists, reviews, discussions, lore videos, let's plays, and the holy waifu wars. Until next time, celebrate your fandom.